Saturday, June 3rd, 2023, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So I walked into town today to buy a few things. Tomorrow I have a competition at the golf club. It's the club championship and we're playing twice. So we're playing 36 holes. So I need a few provisions to take with me. Make sure I keep my energy up, energy levels. And I took a few photos when I was in town of the headlines in the newspapers. I don't buy physical papers anymore. I read them online, but it's interesting to look at the headlines. And I saw one that caught my attention, and it's about Brexit and food prices. Apparently, according to the Weekend paper, UK public blames Brexit for higher food prices. Well, I'm not surprised that they're doing this. And of course, if you followed me for many years, you know that Brexit is not to blame for higher food prices because other countries have experienced rising prices of food as well. And other countries didn't leave the EU like Britain did. But back in 2016, just before the referendum, I was warning the public through my videos, and I'm going to put them up in the cards so you can see them, that the powers that be, the mainstream media, the bankers especially, the politicians, they would blame Brexit for inflation. And how did I know we're going to have inflation? Well, it's very simple, because if you understand the fiat currency system, you know that you can only issue fiat currency through taking on more debt. And in the '08 collapse, the great financial crisis, which was the biggest collapse since the Great Depression in the late 20s, early 30s, governments in the West had to take loads of debt to save the banking system, to save their friends in the city of London, of course, to save actually people who had big mortgages as well, and to save the economy really, or else I think we would have had really riots, and they would have had to impose martial law. So how do they save the system? Well, by government just created a lot of debt to bail the banks out, and the Bank of England on the other side bought the debt through QE. So the UK had, I think, 300 or 400, around 400, 500 billion in debt before the '08 crisis. It could have been even less. And now we're almost up to 3 trillion. So, and they can't stop. Yes, the Bank of England is supposed to stop doing QE, but last year we saw there was a crisis in October with the defined benefit pensions, with the gilt market, and they had to do QE again. So they have to keep inflating. And what is a deliberate inflationary policy? Well, so the national debt is almost gone up tenfold. I would say it has in the last 25 years. And the problem with that is they will never try to pay that back, because you try to pay back the national debt, the economy goes into a recession, because in the fiat currency system, the flip side, of course, of money and currency is the debt. So we hear from Jeremy Hunt that they're going to pay down the debt. But what they mean is they're going to inflate it away. So government has the power, unlike you and me, with the help of the central bank and the bankers, to inflate the system, to create even more debt and currency. They will find excuses, of course, like they did in 2020, like they're finding now with the war in the Ukraine, to basically inflate the system, create even more debt to keep it going. But what that does, that dilutes the value of the currency. It's like putting water in the milk. The more water you put in the milk, eventually it doesn't taste like milk. And that's why food prices and everything has gone up. But actually prices haven't gone up. It's the currency that's lost value, and that's why it looks like prices have gone up. But the general public don't understand what inflation is. As Lord Keynes said about Lenin, that Lenin was right, that inflation was a pernicious process through which the state basically took the wealth out of the bourgeoisie with very few people knowing about it. And hopefully you'll be sharing this with as many people as possible, not just here in the UK, but all over the world, to let people know that inflation is a deliberate government policy. So Brexit is not to blame for higher food prices. Inflation is the inflation of the currency, and they have to keep it going because unfortunately the whole economy is too dependent on government right now, and we've crowded out the private sector. But what this will mean is that we're going to have continued debasement of the currency. And what does that mean for you if you have savings or you're an investor? Well, when I started this channel back in late 2015, the price of gold in dollars was just above $1,000. Right now we're near 2,000, so we've doubled. And I know that recently it's been having a tough time making a new high, but over the long term that's going to continue, the debasement of the currency. The US has the same problem. Just look at the debt ceiling situation. They don't have a debt ceiling anymore for 18 months. Looks like they're going to spend $4 trillion. Here in the UK, the price of gold was around £800, maybe a little less, back in late 2015. And now we're around 1,600. We come off a little bit. So that's going to continue. And there were a few other headlines that I saw. One of them was about, I think it was the Express, saying that finally banks are going to raise rates for savers. So I thought, wow, let me check my NatWest savings account, where I keep a pretty big balance to pay my taxes next January, but it hasn't changed. It's still 1%. So what I've decided to do actually is take half of that balance and buy some Krugerrands from Gold Investments, mainly because they have a special right now at just 1% over spot. And if you use my promo code Maneko64, you only pay 0.5% over spot. Do I think it's risky that I buy the gold and I have a tax bill in January next year? It's possible, but I truly believe that gold and silver will be a lot higher in 6 to 9 months. And even if it isn't, it's not a problem because I have plenty of fiat left in the account. So it's a calculated risk. So I thought that was interesting. So the banks, they're giving out 1% for a normal savings account, while they're getting 4.5% from the Bank of England base rate. The other headline I saw was about strikes, that they're going to continue for the next year. And today I think we had another rail strike. And just another interesting headline which I saw when I was in town was the one in the Daily Telegraph. It says that ministers had secret units to curb critics of lockdown. And it says, chilling tactic, monitor discussion of COVID policies, including vaccines and open schools. Well, that shouldn't be surprising to us. We're supposed to be a free country, but I would say we're not. There's a note saying by Goethe, the German writer and playwright, or philosopher, I think. I've forgotten exactly what it is. I'm going to put it below here so you can look at it. That's the way I feel about it. Am I saying Russia and China are any better? No, but we're not that much better, I don't think. Yes, it seems to be that we're free to say anything we want in the West as long as it's approved, right? So there you go. That's what I wanted to talk about. And you might be asking where I am. Well, I'm in one of the bedrooms in the house. And you might be asking yourself, what's that here? Well, that's a painting my wife did years ago. She's a pretty good artist. And it's a kabuki theater character, and that's a Chinese, I think, silk painting. We were given that by some Chinese friends, and I think that's some Japanese art that I bought at an exposition once. So there you go. With that, I'm going to wish you all a very good weekend. The weather in London is much nicer now. It's still chilly in the morning, but it warms up during the day. So there you go. Take care. Bye.